So welcome, everyone. I am going to make the rash assumption, show of hands, how many of you have used Visio at some point in the past? Yeah, okay, that's pretty much everyone. Couple of exceptions, that's great. I saw one hand that went up about this fast, so clearly somebody who thinks maybe he did once but isn't quite sure, that's fine, no problem. How many of you use Visio Professional as opposed to Standard? So Visio Professional, Visio Standard? Few? Okay. Those of you using Standard, see me afterwards and I'll help you write the 3 paragraphs of justification you need to get an upgrade when you get home, because you want to move to Professional and you'll see the reasons why in just a couple of minutes. How many of you create flowcharts? Microsoft says 30% of all Visio, roughly 30% of all Visio diagrams are created from one of the several flowchart templates. Network diagrams, big in this audience too, I'm sure. Yeah. Org charts, couple, yep. Floor plans, pretty much the gamut. Okay, great. Well, where are we headed today? What I want to do is show you how your Visio diagrams can look like this. So ordinary network diagram, except it happens to show the status of the servers, red, green, and whatever that other color is. Yellow, red, green, and yellow. And also, there's a little bar graph on top of each device that shows CPU speed, relative CPU speed. Or how about the rack? In showing the rack diagram that includes some static information, network names, IP address on the outsides, and has that little speedometer thing in the middle, that's actually showing disk utilization. And it's a live feedback, not this is a slide, but that needle moves as the underlying data changes. So how many of you have used data in diagrams? A smaller percentage, okay, good. Well, that's why you're here, I hope. We want to be able to create diagrams like that. Here's a process diagram of a particular type that displays quite a bit of data visually about each task in the process, and also has some colored graphics. In the upper left-hand corner are little flags that are different colors depending on the risk assigned to that task. And in the lower left corner is a little icon that shows how we're doing for actual time, completion time for each task versus our budget, our estimated time for the task. And those legends over on the right-hand side, those were automatically generated by Visio as well. So that's where we're headed. This is who I am. I won't bother to read it to you. Who cares, really? The one thing you might care about is I have written a couple of books, and we'll be giving a couple of copies. I've got 4 copies with me this week. We'll be giving away before the end of the conference. And also, David Parker, who's the guy holding this funny-looking camera in the front of the room here, another Visio MVP. In his case, he's from a foreign land. He's from England, so we'll let him in. David's written a book specifically about data visualizations and a lot of the technical details, a lot of code samples, cool stuff in here about everything you'd ever want to know about what I'm going to cover in the next 43 minutes. Already said that, winter book. Oh, and by the way, we'll be collecting business cards, or we have some blank cards you can fill out if you don't happen to have a business card with you. It's your mobile phone number that's important. We'll text you if you win. You just have to stop by the Visio booth on the exhibit floor. A couple of examples you've seen. 3 key things we're going to do today. We're going to talk about data in shapes. We're going to talk about how to visualize that data. And we're going to talk about how to link your diagrams to an external data source so that your Visio diagram becomes a dashboard. And I've got some resources and stuff at the end, too. So here's the question I asked a moment ago. How many of you have used data in a diagram? I won't bother to ask how many of you even knew that you could put data in a shape in a diagram. But in fact is, you can. And I see some heads, people don't know that, right? A lot of people don't know that. I did a session a couple of months ago, group of business analysts who use Visio to create flowcharts all the time, all day long, and 49 people in the room. I asked the question, how many know you can put data in a shape? And there was one hand that went up in the back of the room. So if that's you, you're not alone by any stretch of the imagination. The good news is it's really easy to get to the data properties of any shape. Right-click on the shape, select data, and then slide over to shape data, and a special window opens. I'll show you that in just a second live. Looks like this. So there can be data attributes associated with shapes in any Visio diagram. You can also add your own. This is just a picture of the dialog we'll see in a moment, but you can create your own data fields. So if you have a particular diagram type you're working on, and you really, really want to enhance the diagram by keeping track of some data about that thing in this particular diagram, great. You can create the data fields if they aren't already there. So which kinds of diagrams that you have created or others create with Visio can, or already do, I should say, any shape can contain data. Which kinds of shapes already do contain data? The question is almost which ones don't. Lots of the kinds of diagrams that you create already contain data in the shapes. The key is to know how to find it and then know what to do with it, and that's what we're here for. Once you know that there is data in shapes, then it's a really useful thing to be able to create the kind of diagrams you saw pictures of just a moment ago, wherein you can show your managers which servers are up and down at a glance. You don't have to look at a list and figure out, you just look at a picture and you see red lights and green lights or whatever combination of icons or colors you want to use. Or you've got a flow chart and you want to be able to identify, as I did in that one diagram, where the critical risks are in completing that process successfully. A different audience, you need to show them different things. Well, these visualizations are so flexible, you can do that. So here's an example of an org chart. Probably doesn't look like a lot of org charts you've seen, but it has some pictures. Visio does that for you automatically. If you tell it where the pictures are, and the pictures are named similar to or exactly the same as the names in your data, and Visio will insert the pictures. So far, so good. For the red shapes in the middle, that's the management layer in this organization. We're tracking quarterly performance for these managers, and that's what those little bar graphs are. Those were generated by Visio. Normally, I go running to Excel if I want to do a bar chart of some kind, right? You don't have to. If you want it in your Visio diagram, Visio will do it for you. And then in the upper right corner of each of these shapes is a little four little squares, and they're either lit or not. And what we're tracking there, as you see in the legend on the right, is how each employee is doing, meeting their annual training goals. So you've set training goals for each person. How are they doing? Well, we got some people, all 4 squares are lit up in light blue. We've got some people who've got 1 square. They're not doing quite as well. Again, I could go find that data somewhere in a human resources system and look through a report and figure this out, but why not connect my diagram to that HRIS and visualize the data right in the organization chart? Simple example of a flow chart that's color-coded by by the status of each task in the process. The green ones are completed. The orange ones are in progress. The dark blue ones, the sort of teal blue in the bottom row, those haven't been started yet. How do I remember what the colors mean? There's that automatically generated legend in the upper right-hand corner. And trust me, that legend is really useful because I won't remember tomorrow what colors I put in the diagram today. Network diagram, a little different from the example we saw a moment ago. Same idea, though. In this case, I've turned the entire shapes red or yellow or green based on server status. So that one red server right in the middle of the diagram stands out like a sore thumb. We know we got an issue there. When you want to visualize data in Visio, there are 4 different ways built into Visio that you can use to get to pictures or icons or whatever you'd like to use as a technique. There's a set of callouts. These are text callouts. You can have just plain unadorned text, or you can have text with a little icon in front of it. You see some examples there. The second category is something called an icon set. Each icon set is between 2 and 5 icons that you can set the conditions under which each icon occurs. I'll show you this in a second. Data bars are great for numeric data, so you can see star ratings or progress bars. And remember that the presentation of every one of these graphics is dynamic. If the underlying data changes, the graphics change instantly. So that's where this starts to become pretty powerful. And fourth is the color by value. Remember the server a moment ago where the entire server shape was red or yellow? I used color by value to create that particular map. This is great. This is the same technique I used in that flowchart where each flowchart shape was a color based on the status of that task in the process. So lots of tools. They're built right in. And oh, by the way, they've been there since Visio 2007. Hate to tell you that if you didn't know these things were there, but it's true. It's true. Data linking. So it's cool that we have data in shapes. It's cool that we can visualize that data. But I've already hinted at this. What makes it even better and even more powerful is when I link the diagram to an external data source, like that chart, the org chart that was linked to a human resources information system, or the network diagram that's linked to output from SCOM, or whatever it is that you use to collect data about the stuff in your network and put it in a database. Visio can connect to that database. You would expect that the things on the left, all of the Microsoft products, Visio could talk to them pretty easily. I want to highlight the guy over in the far left because ODBC allows us to get to pretty much any data. So in addition to a SQL Server database or an Access database, Oracle, SAP, makes no difference. If it's a database that's ODBC compliant, which most are, then that data is accessible directly within your Visio diagram. And then there's Project hanging over there on the right. You would think that Visio could read data from Project readily, right? Just connect the two and go. Yeah, well, that's a good thought, except it doesn't quite work that way with the desktop Project client. The good news here, though, is with Project Online, it's basically built on top of SharePoint. That's why that sort of transparent, semi-transparent SharePoint icon is there behind Project. Project Online is built on SharePoint, and from the left side of the diagram, we already know Visio can talk to SharePoint, so guess what? With Project Online, we can indeed bring data directly into a Visio diagram. Now, especially for you network geeks out here, you might be wondering why the heck would anyone ever want to do that? Let me give you a quick idea. You create a flowchart that describes the best practice way in which a particular process should be done. And then your organization uses Project to manage projects. So you want to be able to manage each instance of that process using Project Online. Well, I think you can already see where I'm going here. You've got your process map. You've got data in Project Online. You create some visualizations for the things that are important to you about how that process is working. You link Project Online back into your diagram, and your diagram lights up. And as you update statuses in Project Online, your diagram changes. Pretty cool. All right. Switch to this machine. This is Visio 2016 Professional. All of the cool stuff, I wasn't kidding before about upgrading from Visio Standard to Visio Professional or to Visio Online Plan 2, which includes the professional version of Visio. All of the stuff I'm going to show you after the next 3 minutes is all in the Professional Edition and not in the Standard Edition. So those 3 minutes include finding out that data exists in a diagram. I showed you on the slide how to do that. Let's take a device like this printer right here. I just selected it. And actually, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I already have the shape data window open here. Let me close it so you can see what this looks like. So here's a random device. Here's a device that's marked as a printer. I'm going to right-click on it, choose Data, and Shape Data. And sure enough, that window opens, and look at all those data fields. Now, normally when this opens, the first time you ever do this, that window, the shape data window, will probably be floating somewhere on the diagram, and you can move it around. Because 98% of what I do in Visio involves data, I always want that window open. So just as the stencils are always there on the left, I tend to grab this header and smash it against the right-hand side so it's docked over there, adjust the window width to be whatever I want it to be, and there we go. So my shape data window is always open. Because it's open, if I click on a different shape, I'll see different data for the other shapes that are in this particular diagram. Make sense so far? Okay? Anytime you go back to your desk and open a diagram, just for grins, right-click, open the shape data window, and see whether there's data in any of those shapes. There may not be data, but there probably are data fields in which you can put data. This is a simple fill in the form thing. So if I've got an asset number and I want to type it in, I basically just type. I can manually enter data in any of those fields. If I want to add new fields, which I'd suggested a few minutes ago you could do, if you right-click anywhere in the bottom or the unused part of the shape data window, This is just one of several ways to get to where I'm going, but I can right-click and choose Define Shape Data. So let's click that entry, right-click, Define Shape Data, and sure enough, here is that dialog for creating new data fields. If you have Visio Standard, by the way, this dialog is a little bit shorter. There are a couple fewer things that are shown on it. This happens to be the way it looks in the Professional Edition. Now what can I do? I can click the New button down at the bottom and add a new data field. Let's say we want to keep track of available disk space on each of these devices in our network. So I'm adding a field called Available Disk Space. You'll notice if I zoom in here, you can create text fields, numeric fields, fixed lists. The difference, by the way, between a fixed list and a variable list, if I click the down arrow and get a drop-down list, in a fixed list, I must choose one of the entries from the list. Can't do anything else. In a variable list, I can choose one of the entries in the list, or I can type ad hoc and create a new value for that particular field. So think about not only what you need, but think about how other people will use the diagrams you create, and especially once you turn them on to the fact that they can begin recording data. What lists do you want to define so that the data entries are consistent? It's pretty bad if you've got people making up their own statuses for network servers, right? You want the server statuses to be some fixed set of things. So that's a perfect use for a drop-down list that I would define when I'm defining this new data field. In my case, I'm going to go with numeric, but do notice that you can create simple Boolean fields, currency fields, date fields, and so forth. Visio does some basic validation. If I choose, as I am here, number for this particular data type, if I enter text in that field, Visio will complain and tell me I can only enter numeric data. So let's scroll down a little bit, click OK, and we'll look at this shape, and we look at the bottom of the list, and we do see that there's now a field called Available Disk Space. So it's that easy to create new data fields. Now, here's the first question, or next question back for you guys. So I just added a data field. To what did I add that field? How many shapes were affected by what I just did? All shapes, that's one answer. One shape, or do you have a different answer? Are you just holding up your hand? So somewhere between all and one. Good guess. Let's find out. Let's click the identical shape just below this one. And there you go, down at the bottom. Do you see available disk? Let me zoom in. No, you don't. So the answer is, if I modify a shape on the page, I am modifying that shape on the page, period. Probably, yeah, that may be great for experimenting, but if what you really would like is all laptop shapes or all server shapes or all PC shapes to have the same data attributes, you need to do something a little bit different. And here's where we're going to dig in behind the scenes in Visio. You know about the stencils that are over there on the left, right? We can drag stuff in all day long. Each of the things in that stencil is called a master, and when you drag a master onto the page, you create an instance that we then refer to as a shape. So far, so good. There is, in Visio, a hidden stencil called the document stencil. It lives inside the document. It's off or not visible by default, but the purpose of the document stencil is to keep one master for every shape that's been used anywhere in the document. So, see where we're going here? How about if we modify that master in the document stencil? That sounds like a promising thing to do. So let's do that. Key for finding the document stencil in the first place is the tab up here that says Developer. You probably don't see that in your copy of Visio at the moment because it's off by default, but if you just go into File Options and modify the ribbon, you'll see it sitting right there without a check mark in front of it. Just put a check mark in front of it and the tab will appear. Same in Excel, same in Word, same in PowerPoint. There are developer tabs in all the Office apps like that. So with the developer tab on, what I want to do is go over here and notice the entry for document stencil. Sure enough, checking that, now when I look over here in my list of stencils, there is one called Document. So step one, turn on the document stencil simply by going to the Developer tab and putting a check mark in place. Now we see that we've got a group of shapes here. And actually, let me make the stencil a little bit wider so we can see what's up. Let me take the laptop shape that we just modified one instance of. Let's do this. Right-click, choose Edit Master, and Edit Master Shape. So now, this is the bare bones view of the master for the laptop shape as used in this document. And notice it has shape data attributes. Available disk space is not one of those attributes, but just as we did a moment ago back in Visio, and I'm going to come out of zoom mode here, because it's affecting my mouse a little bit. Right-click, define shape data, and let's do the same thing. Click New, and type the name available disk space. We'll make this a number, and click OK. Now, I'm going to click the X up toward the top right here. That's not the X to close Visio, but the X to close this window. And when I do, Visio says, update laptop, and the rest of the phrase is the really important part, and all of its instances. Sounds like a winner. So let's do that. Click Yes. And now let's randomly click on laptop shapes. Well, first of all, the one that's already selected, we notice, has available disk space, as does this one. How about this one? Oh, that's not a laptop. So I would need to make a similar modification to the PC shape or the server shape. If you want to do this more than just occasionally, writing a little bit of VBA code to do it is a wonderful way to accomplish it. David is a past master at modifying masters. So it's a very simple, relatively simple thing to do, save you a tremendous amount of time, especially because I need to make one more important point here. For this laptop shape, we've added a key data field. Great. We've modified all the instances of this shape in this diagram. What about other diagrams? They're not affected. We've only changed the master in the document stencil for one diagram. So if you want to create a whole series of new diagrams that have these additional data attributes, well, guess what? The best thing to do is make the changes once, create a new template, just file save as template, create a new Visio template that has your customizations in it, and then all future diagrams will indeed inherit those attributes. Questions? Yes? Excellent question. The question is it true that the existing shapes, the ones that come from the stencils that are out of the box, is it true that they cannot be connected dynamically to data elsewhere? No, absolutely not. Any data attribute and any shape can be affected by linking to an external data source. I'm just showing you how to create a new one because you might want one that's not there. But whether it's an already existing attribute or a new one that you create, when we get to the linking in just a couple of minutes, you'll see that you can accomplish that. Yes? If you don't want to change the default of the master shape, can you copy that? Good question. If I actually don't want to change the master so that every instance of that shape is affected, can I take the shape that I've modified and just copy and paste it? Absolutely. So if you're copying a shape that you've modified, then all of the copies will be modified. Yeah. Good. All right. Let's try something visual now. So in this diagram, we can see that there is a little bit of data. I don't have a lot. We're going to come to a lot of data in a moment. This particular printer has a network name of Accounts Payable Printer, AP Printer, and the shape next to it has a network name, an IP address, a couple of other things. Some of the servers down here have quite a bit more data in them. But let's start with a simple case. Let's take this middle shape right here. What I'd like to do is display its network name. Now, first, before I do that, look at the printer to its left. It says AP Printer. It looks like that shape already is displaying its network name. But, and this is a really big but, one of the worst things that you can do when creating a Visio diagram is to label shapes by creating a text box and putting it near the shape. Some of you probably know exactly where I'm headed here, but let's say, okay, I need to rearrange this diagram a little bit. So of course, what I want to do is move this printer over a little bit. So let's put it over here. And of course, the label will, no, it didn't follow along because I did the bad thing in this case. I simply created a text box, put it near the thing I wanted to label, and there they were. Bad idea. There are several ways to accomplish getting the text to be part of the shape. I'm going to show you one you probably haven't seen before, and that's to use one of those visualizations. So, select this shape and go to the Data tab. Once again, if you have Visio Standard, you don't even have a Data tab, so get one. I'm going to click over here to the right where it says Advanced Data Graphics. And there's a gallery of existing graphics. I'm going to ignore those for the moment, and I'm going to choose Create New Data Graphic. That opens this dialog, the key to which is in the upper left. It says New Item. If I'm going to visualize something, naturally I need to tell Visio what it is I want to visualize. So I will get out of zoom mode here so I can operate. Click New Item. And Visio displays for me a list of the data fields that it finds in this shape. Or if I haven't selected any shapes, it makes some pretty good guesses about what fields I might want to use. In this case, what I would like to visualize is the network name. So let's scroll down here and choose network name. Here's where I get to choose from among the 4 choices I showed you on a slide, the 4 types of visualizations. The text callouts are first, so that's the one we ultimately want, so I'm actually going to skip over that for the moment. Data bars are the ones that show you progress bars and that kind of thing. We'll come back to those as well. Icon sets I talked about, and color by value. So tell you what, let's actually do this. Let's go ahead and select the text. Text. Must be cosmic rays in here that are affecting my mouse. So we chose text, and now there is just below it a gallery, a little drop-down list. I mentioned that there were some simple unadorned text callouts that you could create, as well as some that have symbols in front of them. I'm going to pick one that has a little server icon in front of it. Why not? Visio will position this by default somewhere, so I'm just going to click OK and click OK. Visio says, do you want to apply this particular graphic to the shape? There we go. So I'm going to finesse the issue, and we'll do that and just zoom in, because I happened to click Escape incorrectly. The positioning of this new little graphic is not very useful in this particular case. So let's show you how easy it is to reconfigure that. Let's go back to the gallery. Right-click on this new graphic we created and choose Edit. You can also right-click on the shape and get to the same place. So here I'm going to edit by double-clicking, and I'm going to uncheck Use the default position there, and specifically tell Visio where to put this thing. So I will uncheck Default, and I'm going to position this left and top, just because when I was playing around last night, that looked like a pretty good place to put this. So left horizontally and the top, and let's click OK and OK. And zoom in. Not bad. So we get a little icon, and we get the network name. So we can see that thing. Now, is this part of the shape? Let's find out. Let's drag this guy over here, and look at that. The callout sticks with the shape. It's actually part of the shape, so there's just no question about whether it will come with it. If I copy the shape and paste it onto another page, that goes along as well. It's part of the shape. Look like a good way to add a label to something that you can make as pretty or as plain as you want. I think you'll find it is. What about other types? Let's take a look at the same shape and let's add you create a different kind of field. So let's go back to Advanced Data Graphics, choose Create New, and this time what we're going to visualize is the CPU speed for this device. So I'll just choose CPU. Over on the right side of the screen, you'll notice a 3 next to CPU. So that's 3 megahertz for this machine. I'm going to choose that data bar category. Here's the gallery of different kinds of data bars, including the speedometer, thermometer. There's the bar graphs if I wanted to create those. In this particular case, what I'm going to choose is a simple progress bar. And notice the data, the minimum and maximum. This is really important. If you need to know a little bit about your data before you can create this graphic. Most of these data bars assume percentages. So the minimum 0, maximum 100. If I know I'd like to have a 100 megahertz CPU in my machine, sure, but I happen to know that they mostly fall in the range of 0 to 5 or 6 or something like that. So let's set the maximum to 5 and click OK. In this case, let's position this more specifically. We know we can let it default. I'm going to center it. No, actually, I'll tell you what. I'm going to put it on the left and put it just above the shape. So top edge of the shape, and click OK. Click OK. Apply it to this one, yes. And there we go. So now I've got a little bar that shows me the relative CPU speed for this device. Doesn't get much easier than that. And yet, the result can be pretty effective, as you saw in some of the diagrams a moment ago. What else can I do? Well, let's try the color by value. So same starting point. Click Create New Graphic. This time, for color by value, we'll use the status of the device. I know. I'm sorry. I'm just looking at my notes here. I think something better, what I will do here is use the status, but we'll use traffic lights instead, similar to what we saw a moment ago. I'm missing the status there, so bear with me a second. There it is. Status. Click OK. And this time I'm going to choose icon set. And here's the default, but I've got a whole gallery of icons that we can use, all kinds of different things. If you need to know how to create your own icon sets, I'll refer to David one more time. Not only his book, but he's got some code available for you that will help you create icon sets. I have used it on multiple occasions. Once you pick your icon sets, it's simply a matter of saying under which conditions do I want each one to appear. I'm not going to see this through, but you can, I can say red if equals this, blue if it's this, but green if it's something else, whatever. But for numeric values, I can say a range, so I can say anywhere between 2 and 7, put this icon. It's that easy. And then color by value works very much the same way. We'll just take that same status field and let's choose color by value. And Visio scans the diagram, finds values that exist in this diagram, in this case, down, OK, and unknown, and assigns random colors, which always are the most garish colors you could ever possibly imagine. And I change them every single time because I don't really want colors that bright. Sometimes, yes, and in this case, these aren't bad. I want a bright red. But often, for process maps that I'm working on, I want something a little bit more subtle, so maybe I want a pale green and a pale blue or violet, something. Make it suitable for your audience. Understand what your audience needs, how they'd like to see the data, and then you're all set. And in this case, we can click OK, and click OK, and we now have that graphic. In this case, I don't think that particular guy has status in it, but the end result, let's go to a finished version of this that looks like what you saw on the slide a moment ago. So here is a case where I've added multiple graphic items in a single data graphic. So each of those servers is displaying two things, both its status and its CPU. I've created diagrams in which there were 8 or 9 different graphics visualizations applied to the same shape. Too much is overload, but there's a lot of value in being able to visualize multiple things at a time if you want to. Last thing to do in terms of the demonstration is the data linking, and let me show you how that piece works. We'll go back to the previous diagram a moment. This diagram is not currently linked to data. Some of the shapes have data that I put there, but what I really want to do is go to the Data tab and click Custom Import in the upper left here. When I do that and choose from the data sources, now this is quick aside, on my slide you saw all the data sources to which I could connect. Here's evidence of that in the wizard that Visio is going to let me step through in order to make this happen. I can choose any of those. My data at the moment happens to be in Excel. Indeed, it looks sort of like this. So here's a black screen. Let's not do that. Here's the data, network name, IP address, location, and so forth. It is possible, I showed you how to create data fields manually. It's possible to add your own fields. So those couple of columns on the right that I've colored differently just to make them stand out, available hard drive and status, those are columns of data that don't exist in the out-of-the-box network shapes in the Visio diagram. The act of what we're about to do, linking to this data source, will automatically add them. So that's an even easier way. You don't have to do anything manually. Visio does it for you. So there's my data. Let me close that guy. Here's my diagram. Back on the Data tab, click Import, click Excel, Next, navigate to that particular file, and it is in right here. Click Next. Which table or tab do I want to select that contains the data? In this case, there's only one, so we'll just go with it. If you want to restrict so only certain rows and columns are linked from this diagram, you can do that. I'll go with all of them. Click Next. And here's the really important choice. This is a case where Visio has looked at my data and found a column that looks like it contains a unique identifier for each row of data. And I find it's remarkably smart and remarkably good at doing that. Sometimes it's dead simple. If you've got a column that's step number and it goes 1 through 20, those are pretty obviously unique identifiers for each row of data. But it's found network name. It could have found IP address, could have found something else. The best news of all, though, is those are just checkboxes. So if you know that the unique identifier is something other than what Visio picked, just check and uncheck and you're all set. Network name is good, so let's click Next. Click Finish. And there's something you probably haven't seen before either. This is the external data window. So we saw the shape data window. This is the external data window. So this is Visio's view of the data to which you've linked. One step remaining. I've succeeded in connecting the diagram to the data source. Now I need to marry each row of data to a specific shape on the page. I can do that manually. I can actually drag a row of data from the external data window and drop it on a shape. But I'm a basically lazy guy. So if Visio can do this for me, that's what I want Visio to do. And how is it going to do it? It's going to use the network name that we picked in the wizard. And I know that I've already put network name values in each of the shapes in this diagram. So watch what happens when I click Link Data. All shapes on the page indicate that it is, in fact, network name in the data window and network name in each shape. Click Next and Finish. And notice the little chain link symbols that appeared at the far left edge of each row of data. That's just Visio's way of telling me these guys are linked. And by the way, notice there's one that isn't. It's an uninterruptible power supply. It happens to be in the rack diagram on the next page, not on this page. And the data linking is by default just on one page at a time. So we're good. Now we have all this data in these shapes, and every shape that had a network name that matched, if we right-click and choose Data and Shape Data and open the window, we see that all of that data, including the new fields for available hard drive and status, those were added automatically, as I said they would be. Next and final is what do you do with that diagram? How do you distribute it? How do you make it available to people who don't necessarily have Visio? The answer is SharePoint Online, OneDrive for Business, stick the diagram there, point any browser to it. This happens to be Edge. There's my diagram. This happens to be Chrome. I don't have my phone hooked up to the projector, but Android phone, iPhone, Safari on a Mac works fine. The rendering is 99.5% identical, and it's truly browser independent, works on any device. All right, let's wrap up then. We got about 5 minutes. I want to have a few minutes for questions, but I got a couple of resource sort of slides that I want to show you some useful stuff. Quick summary first. Yes, go ahead. Excellent question. If I put my diagram in SharePoint Online, where does the data reside? The diagram contains a copy of the data that you've linked to. It also contains the link to the actual data source, and that data remains wherever it is. But realize that there is a copy of the data in your diagram. When you refresh from the data source, then your updated data is now in the diagram. So if that causes security concerns, then you need to think about that. So excellent question. Yes. SharePoint Online is in the cloud, so your diagram and the copy of the data inside it would be in the cloud. And the SQL database is probably on-prem, yeah. Okay, so let me generalize the question a little bit more. So I've got a diagram that has data in it. It's linked to a data source. We change the data source changes. Maybe it's a live database that's got live network status in it or whatever it is. And there is that period of time when the two are out of date. If there's a problem with the connection between the two, when either I click a button or a piece of code or a timer says to the Visio diagram, go refresh, if it can't get there, then it can't refresh. So that's a potential thing to keep in mind too. But generally speaking, what will happen is that you will, you'll cause the diagram to refresh. It'll go out and read the data, and you'll have the latest in the diagram. 3 things I want you to remember. Number 1, shapes have data. Number 2, the visualizations, everything I've shown you is built into Visio and has been for several generations of Visio. And third, any diagram can be linked to data so that you can create something that looks like this and impress the heck out of your friends and neighbors and coworkers. Well, maybe not your neighbors. They probably don't really care. But maybe your coworkers. Maybe your boss. Resources. We'll collect business cards at the back if you're interested in winning a copy of either David's book or mine. You can also stop by the Visio booth and drop a card there. We're collecting them there. Here's some resources. Download a copy of the slides, and you'll have these links available for places to get more good stuff about Visio. This is sort of a personal list page for me. If you want more resources about Visio, I've created 4 different video courses at LinkedIn Learning about Visio, different aspects of Visio. The one that's on the left side, called Advanced Visio, Working with Data, is everything we just did in 45 minutes in a rush, but in about 2.5 hours. So if you want a more in-depth look at how to do all the things I've talked about and a bunch more stuff too related to data, LinkedIn Learning. I also did a Visio tips and tricks class for LinkedIn Learning that is about an hour, a little over an hour of my best ideas about how to use Visio more effectively. A couple of other things as well. Finally, this is where to find me. I do Visio training. Happy to talk to you about webcast training, on-site training, whatever the case might be. I'm on Twitter. I tweet about Visio semi-regularly. Also monitor Visio as a keyword on Twitter, so if you post questions randomly on Twitter and they have Visio in the name, I may just find them and answer them. You'll never know. And evaluate the session. So I'm happy to take some questions now. Yes? Good question. If the diagram's going to get too busy with all the things I want to visualize about it, can I create the visualizations on different layers, for example, and turn layers on and off? You could, but it probably is easier. You notice when I pulled the drop down, there was a gallery of data graphics I had available that I'd previously created in one of the diagrams. You don't have to display all your graphics all the time. You can have one graphic set that includes 2 or 3 things that are key, At another moment in time, it may be 2 or 3 different things, or maybe 1 or 2 of those and a couple of others that you want to see. So what you do, very easily, Control-A to select everything on the page, and just apply a different graphic. So different times, different audiences want to see different things. So effectively, you're applying different graphics at different times to create different views. It's sort of like having them on layers and turning layers on and off, but I think you'll find that avoiding layers for that particular purpose may be a good thing. I've got about 5 seconds. What I'll do is start wrapping up my machine, but come down to the front and ask me questions as I'm packing up. Let me just ask, folks in the back, is there another speaker coming in now? Yeah, there he is. Okay, great. So come on over. I'll be packing up so he can get set up, and please come up and ask more questions. Thank you.